that, or would you like me to?
Sure. Okay, so the first part we have here is introduction of our new police trustee, Thomas Stoffel, and you go by Tommy, is that correct? I'm off mute here.
Correct. Sorry, this is my first Zoom meeting, and I'm getting my computer stuff all dialed in. Yeah, I go by Tommy.
Okay, and so Tommy's here visiting today. He will officially take over January 1st as the new fire trustee. With that, glad to have him on board.
Police, I think.
No, police, yes. Sorry, Tommy, that's big offense. I apologize for that.
No, I prefer to actually work for the fire bureau, but I'll take it.
Okay. And then we have Kyle. Kyle was reelected, so he'll be rejoining us on January 1 as for both of them for another 3-year stint with us with that. And their terms will expire on December 31 of 2027 with that. So welcome aboard, everybody. So back to approving the meeting minutes.
Any additions, edits, or questions to the minutes from September 24th? Going once, twice. Okay. Need a motion to approve them and then a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Catherine, I think you're muted.
I unmuted. Can you not hear me?
Now
Now
we
you
can.
can.
Okay, great. I'll second the motion.
Okay, and all in favor say aye.
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 Aye here too. I think we got it. Okay.
Well, just hold on. Did we lose somebody here?
He's just working with his computer, I think.
No.
I see Trustee Kramer. I don't see Trustee Kramer anymore. I wonder if he
Yeah,
was dropped.
awesome.
He'll come on in a minute and blame it on Comcast.
Well, you can say it passed because you had 3 passes on that, so that passes. We don't need to hold up at this point with that.
Looks like you have to get us a room, Sam.
Well, we're going to try. We'll talk about that at the end of where our future board meetings are with that.
Okay, the minutes are approved then with the 3. And do we have any visitors for introduction other than or already?
Stacey, do you have a couple you want to introduce?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and introduce them as part of our first information item, though. But do we have any other visitors that we need to introduce before we move on to that?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then, with your permission, Chair Hughes, the agenda, we did move one information item to the top of the agenda before we move to the action item, since we do have some special visitors. So with your permission, I'll go ahead and introduce that.
Please.
All right. So for the record, I'm Stacey Jones. I'm the Deputy Director here, the Finance and Pension Manager. And we always have Moss Adams join us at the November meeting. Moss Adams are who the city has under contract to do all of our financial audits currently. And they, including FPDR's standalone audit. So we are part of the city's ACFR, the city's comprehensive financial audit, but we also have our own standalone audit conducted every year. And so we have some folks from Moss Adams to present to you as the governing body, their findings and the results of that audit, as they do every year. So those of you who have been around for a few years will remember Keith and Elise, but for Chair Hughes and then also for Trustee-elect Stoffel, let me just introduce them. Keith Simovic is the lead partner at Moss Adams, who oversees all the financial audits here at the City of Portland. We're extra fortunate because Keith has particularly deep experience here with FPDR. He's been involved with our audit for many years at different levels as he kind of promoted up through the ranks at Moss Adams. And then he also has with him today Elise Horsley, who is the senior manager at Moss Adams on the FPDR audit. She's been part of the FPDR audit team for 3 or maybe 4 years now. So I'll turn it over to them so they can share their findings with the board and give you folks an opportunity to ask questions. I'll turn it over to you, Keith.
Perfect. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Chair Hughes and fellow trustees. Yes, for those of you that are kind of used to hearing this presentation in the past, we look forward to kind of sharing our results now that the audit is completed for FPDNR for its June 30th, 2024 fiscal year end. So we have a presentation that we'll go ahead and share, and we'll get to hear from my coworker Elise as well. So you don't have to hear it just from me the whole time. Let's see, can I share my screen? Looks like it's disabled.
Are you able to fix that, Julie, or?
While we're working on that, I can go ahead and kind of just get started. So
You should be able to share your screen. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yep, looks like it's working now. Hopefully this will pop up for everyone. Can you all see this? Great. All right. So in addition to Elise and I that are here today, kind of representing Moss Adams and our team, it wasn't just the two of us working on this. Any of our audits with the city, it's a full team effort. So even what you see on here isn't our full team. We've had an additional staff that was involved in helping with some of the prep phase of the audit, but this is kind of the core group of our team. So in addition to Elise and myself, we had Lori Tisch, who serves as what we call our concurring review partner. Or you can really think of that as a QC role. Lori is a partner that's been with our firm for many years and leads our government services practice. So she knows the governmental accounting standards very well and works in that realm 100% of her time, just like I do. And she's responsible for coming in and reviewing certain key documents in our audit process. It's something that our firm requires. It's not necessarily required by professional standards, but we feel very strongly that it's good to have someone that's what we would call a cold reviewer coming in that doesn't really have any other connections to the management team or staff at FPDNR, that's really coming in just to make sure, hey, did we follow all of our professional standards? Did we do everything that we said we were going to do during our planning phase of the audit? And do all the final deliverables include all the items that would be required from our professional standards? And does the annual financial report that FPDNR puts together, does that kind of meet all the technical requirements that the governmental accounting standards puts forth? So very key role. That person is required to sign off on all the things that we do to make sure that we can move forward and finalize our report. So we're happy to have her serve in that role for us again this year. And then Alan Sudavan served as our audit senior. He's been on the engagement for a few years now too. So you had a team that was very experienced with FPDNR coming back for the audit again this year. All right, I know there's a lot of words on the page, but I'll kind of summarize. This is really intended to give you a summary of what you can expect to receive when you hire an independent CPA firm to come in and do a financial statement audit of FPDNR each and every year. So number one, what you can expect to receive and what you would want to look for in that annual financial report for FPDNR is our report over the fairness and accuracy of the financial statements. And how do we get to the point where we can give that report? It's through all the detailed testing that we do back to contracts, agreements, the benefit. We're sampling all the benefit payments throughout the year and making sure that the amounts that you're paying people are appropriate in line with the plan document underlying all of this. We're looking at the revenue sources that are coming in. And so through all the detailed testing that we're doing there, we gather enough substantive evidence that we can give an opinion to say, do we believe this is a fair and accurate representation of FPDNR's financial statements as of June 30th, 2024. In addition to that, we have to do a technical review of that financial statement document. Not only do we have to make sure that we're testing, make sure the numbers reported there are fair and accurate and supported by evidence, but we also have to make sure that you're able to put together that document, that it meets, again, all the technical requirements that the Governmental Accounting Standards Board puts forth. And so that's a key piece that we're going through to make sure we're doing that technical review and that you're meeting all those different requirements. So at the end of the day, we can say this is a set of financials that's prepared in line with generally accepted accounting principles. On top of that, we issue an audit report for your compliance with government auditing standards because of FPDR being involved with the city's audit and having to follow through on government auditing standards. There's a few additional things that we have to do there to comply with government auditing standards. One, we have to make sure we bring forth a team that has had a certain amount of continuing professional education, that they understand governmental accounting standards and governmental auditing standards as well. And also we're issuing an additional report in line with government auditing standards where we note, did we have any what we would call significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that we identified in internal controls? And also, did we find any instances of non-compliance in the course of our audit procedures? So that's an additional report that you see as well. And then finally, we come before you to communicate to the governing body of the organization and to let you know how the audit went, give you a little more insight outside of just, hey, did we get a clean audit opinion or not, right? That's obviously very important and the goal of all this. But in addition to that, this communication is to give you that additional insight as to, did we run into issues along the way? Did we complete this in line with the initial time frame that we had laid out? Did we have any significant audit adjustments or material errors that we noted during our process? Did we have material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls? So those are the types of things that you can glean from kind of this presentation outside of just, again, did we get a clean opinion or not? So for those two audit reports that I mentioned in your annual financial report, one for your report on the fairness and accuracy of the financial statements, we did give a clean opinion. So that's exactly what you're looking for, of course, as the governing body, kind of taking responsibility overall for FPDR. You want to know that you had a third party come in that's independent of FPDR and its staff, and looked at the books and records and get to a point where you can give a clean opinion that we say, hey, this is a fair and accurate representation of your financial position at year end. So very, very good news there. Through all the reviews that we did, looking at your internal controls, looking at the evidence surrounding a lot of the records and transactions that were recorded during the year, we gathered enough evidence that we can get to that point and issue that audit opinion. So very good news there. And in that additional government auditing standards report, we did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to note, which is exactly what you're looking for there. We evaluate your internal controls each and every year. We test a number of those extensively to get an understanding of, hey, are they operating effectively? Are we following through on all the policies and procedures that we have in place impacting your financial statements? And we didn't have any areas where we found any gaps in internal controls that we would say rose to the level of a significant deficiency or material. So that is very, very good news as well, and what you're looking for in that audit report. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elise. We'll get to hear from her a little bit to go through a few additional required communications that we have in this process.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. Like Keith said, required communications. He lined out a couple of these. So these are some things that you probably won't find in the audit report. Like I said, not talking just about the clean opinion, finishing the audit, but some other insights to how the audit went. And so that first bullet point, plan, scope, and timing, if we had any issues with our scope of the audit, or if we were planning to issue or finish audit procedures during a specific time frame and that didn't happen, we might line those out for you. We planned to issue this time. We did not issue on that time. But good news, we issued right on time this year. And then next, accounting policies. We would point you to the notes in the financials for your accounting policies. There were no significant changes in the current year. You did implement one new standard, GASB 100, did not have a big effect on the organization as a whole. And then any audit adjustments or proposed audit adjustments, we had none, no adjustments there. The next one talks about consultation with other accountants. If we happen to come to a disagreement with management, we couldn't hash it out, and management went to another accountant and asked their opinion, got a second opinion on some issue, we would have to note that here as well, and we did not note any of those. We would also let you know if there was any difficulties in performing the audits or any disagreements with management in general. We did not have any of those either. And then along with that letter of internal control, audit observations, recommendations, if we had any of those, we would note those in this meeting as well. We didn't have any internal control findings, no material weaknesses to note. So all good news. No scary findings in here. So that's good. And then a little bit about new accounting pronouncements. We won't go into a full accounting lesson today, but you did implement GASB 100, which is accounting changes and error corrections. Not a big impact on the organization. It has more of an impact on governments with funds and those changing major funds. That's where you see a big change in with the standard this year about how you present those in the financial statements. And then ones to look forward to, GASB 101, compensated absences, a little bit of a change there, may or may not. I think the organization is still looking at how that's going to affect you for June 30, 2025. And then some forward to the future, GASB 102, certain risk disclosures, and then GASB 103, the financial reporting model improvements, which could have an impact on the organization as well. But things to look forward to in the future, more GASBs to implement. So next slide.
And I would just say, just real quick on GASB 102, that one is nothing that's going to impact how you're recording transactions or presenting them, but it is clarifying disclosures that need to be in your financial statements. Although for FPDR and your financial report currently, I don't know that this will have an impact. It has to do with wanting or making it very explicit that you have to have disclosures if you're a governmental entity following GASB rules, that you have to have disclosures surrounding when you have constraints or concentrations, right? And so it's trying to call out to the reader of your financial report if there's certain risks that can inhibit your ability to, say, raise revenues, for example, right? And this is something that FPDR has disclosed in its financial report each and every year regarding kind of the property tax levy cap that's out there, and your ability to raise those revenues in future years, right? So I think this is something where a lot of organizations probably already are meeting the requirements in this new standard that'll be coming out next year, such as FPDR, but some organizations were choosing not to, just because it wasn't explicit in the standard. So I think there's items in this standard that really won't have an impact because of the financial reporting that you're already doing within the FPDR June 30, 2024 financial statements.
I have a question about GASB 101. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Is that likely to have any impact on members receiving workers receiving disability payments or such, prior to retirement? Is that likely to have any impact on them?
It should have no impact on how the plan operates
Okay.
or cash flow or anything like that. It's a financial reporting impact.
And Trustee McLeod, I don't think GASB 101 will have any impact on our financial reporting either. We still need final pronouncement from central accounting on that, but not the way I read it. And I don't think GASB 102 either, because as Keith said, we're already meeting those requirements around disclosing our constraints. And I do think GASB 103 will have some impacts on our reporting. But that's a few years out, just in terms of where we put things, and we may need to add some information to our notes in our RSI for that. That has some reporting rules around budget to actuals that I think will probably impact us down the road.
Good question, though.
All very good insight. And then just some acknowledgements here at the end. Appreciate Sam, Stacy, and Asha, and all the staff there. You're super awesome to work with, and we really appreciate very timely, always providing things that we need when we need them. So I think that'd be a given, but you're amazing at that. So just kudos to your team who did great this year and every year that I've worked with them. So, and with that, we're open to questions if anyone has any.
I've got a couple of questions, and bear with me. This is very far from my lane, so these are probably going to be some pretty simple type things, but just reading through some of this first part, the financial section, my first question has to do with something on page 11 referring to compression. And it's just because it's not how I understood budget compression, talking about, let's see, The state constitution caps each property's general government taxes at $10 per thousand. After reaching this point, all levies, including FPDR, are subject to compression. It was my impression if we ever hit that $2.80, which is very unlikely, the compression happens to the general fund, not to the levies. Is that an incorrect way of understanding compression?
It's probably better if I answer that question, Keith and Elise. So the way compression works, it is property by property. So if an individual property goes into compression, Trustee McClowery, the first, there's an order of compression. So the first thing that happens is that local option levies are compressed. So that's the first layer of compression. And those get compressed all the way down to zero before permanent levies are compressed. And we are a permanent levy. So first, so let's say compression was happening on my house in Southeast Portland. So the park's local option levy would be compressed out of existence. And I forget what other local option levies we have, but all the option levies would be compressed out of existence first to get me down below that, my house down below that $10 cap. But then after that, then all general government levies are compressed simultaneously in proportion to get you down below that cap. So depending on the property and the degree to which it was in compression, permanent government levies can be compressed.
Okay, so it's not in reference to the general fund at all. It's just specific to the levies.
Yes, and so the general government or the general fund, which is funded by the city of Portland's general government levy, like that can be compressed. Our levy can be compressed. Multnomah County's general government levy can be compressed. It's just that the local option levies get compressed first, and they get compressed all the way out of existence before the permanent levies get touched. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I didn't understand that prior to this. In that same page, there's a little discussion about the discount rate used to calculate the net present value of liability, that it shrunk. Is that something we've discussed before in our meetings?
Probably, but it doesn't hurt to talk about it again. So that is actually, at least to a great degree, dictated by GASB standards as well. So Keith and Elise, if you prefer to talk about that, you can. They get tired of listening to me. If you guys want to talk about the discount rate, why don't you guys talk about the discount rate used to calculate the liability, just because they get tired of listening to me. that is dictated by GASB 67 and 68. And just to refresh, Keith, we use the GeoBond index as our substitute for as our value for the risk-free rate.
Right. So there's requirements in the GASB standards that talk about this. There was a big kind of change. Gosh, now it's been what, 9 years since, like maybe 10 now, since that big standard came out and kind of shifted how you calculate this, or kind of put some additional guidelines surrounding how an actuary has to go about setting the discount rate and everything. And so if you have a plan that's basically not funded, typically they're having you go out and look for things like as Stacey mentioned, the GeoBond rate that you're using. So they update that discount rate on an annual basis as they remeasure the liability. The actuary is doing this and setting that discount rate equal to what the GeoBond index rate is at that point in time.
Does that make sense, Trustee McClowery? Like basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
You want me to take another stab at that?
Yeah, I did actually, not really.
No.
I've got if you don't mind, bear with me for a moment or two. I'm going to try and find a couple other things I had some notes on. Page 21, there was the PERS liability, and I just wanted to double check from reading it. It sounds like that's talking about the PERS liability specific for the FPDR employees, not the fire and police employees. Is that correct?
So on page 21, yeah. So that's just disclosures related to the general accounting policies of the city of Portland. And it's talking about, so that's just talking about that we are in compliance, like the city in general. That note is about all of the accounting. It is about the accounting policies of the city and FPDR, and it's about the general PERS liability, and that we're in compliance with GASB 68, which governs PERS, which governs how we do our financial reporting around that liability. Yes.
Okay. All right. I do have one other, if you don't mind. I just have to find it. It's page 30, about the health insurance continuation. Let me just give me a second here. It has to do with this. This single employer plan at the end is not a standalone plan, therefore does not issue its formal financial statements. No assets accumulated in this GASB compliant trust. Now, if I were to, I didn't realize that that PR was related to the health insurance continuation in retirement.
It's not.
It's not, okay. So is this referring to something else, or is it specific to FPDR employees?
No, this is kind of crazy. Like, you sort of have to be an accountant to even understand this. But so notes 4 and 5 are, we have to include them in our audit document because they relate to the city as a whole. But those are just pure copies of the city's notes on OPEB and PERS, because we have the FPDR employees are in OPEB and PERS. So this is about the OPEB and PERS benefits for the city's general liability. There are a few paragraphs in here in notes 4 and 5 that do pertain specifically to the FPDR fund's share of that. But so the FPDR fund has a share of the city's overall liability in the PERS plan, and some of that is the fire and police liability, and some of that is liability for our own employees. And we also have a share in the city's OPEB liability, which is other post-employment benefits, which are, like the implicit rate subsidy when we allow retirees to continue on the city's health insurance at the rate pool, at the city employee rate, and things like that. So all of those liabilities get shared out among all the funds in the city. And then we, as our own fund, have to share in that liability and report that part of the liability. And then we have to include these notes that explain what is that OPEB liability and what is that FP and what is that PERS liability, to explain our share of it. But it doesn't really have anything to do with it doesn't have anything to do with the FPDR plan at all.
Or the city health insurance reserves, because that is also.
Well, now it could have something to do with the city health insurance reserves, and I'm not an expert on that.
Okay.
It could. If you had a specific question about it, I could try to get you an answer.
I was just trying to clarify because I have some working knowledge of that, how that reserves works, and it clearly is a trust. It's in a trust, and it does accumulate assets. So I was just trying to figure out if that was referring to that, because it did make sense to me, because clearly it is. It's a trust. It's not a GASB trust. It's a, somebody can help me out. I can remember the acronym. It's a different type of trust, but it is. I mean, it has something to $26 million in it. Last I heard. But that was, I was just trying to clarify it because I didn't know about the continuation, the health insurance continuation for FPDR. But it does sound like it's somewhat of a accounting or more of an arcane thing that I didn't really understand.
Yeah, and there is no health insurance continuation benefit for FPDR members. There is a health insurance continuation benefit for some PERS employees. And anyway, I don't know if Keith or Elise know more about this than I do, or possibly Chair Hughes.
I mean, Stacey, you're on point with just, this represents FPDR's share of that liability. Now, the health continuation account, there isn't a trust related to that. So the reserves that you might be referring to might be something different. I don't know which reserves specifically, but there isn't a reserve related to this. This is, as Stacey was saying, kind of a implicit rate subsidy plan where employees are able to stay on the plan,
right,
for a period of time, but it's not being, nothing's being funded by the city for that.
And I'll jump in here as well, just from general experience with these kind of plans, not this one in particular. So yes, if Trustee McClowery, if you'd like states to investigate further, you certainly should. But my general familiarity with these implicit rate subsidy plans is that the actuary would not be looking at reserves set in a trust aside. They wouldn't be looking at that particularly to develop the citywide liability for this, post-retirement health continuation by retirees. They wouldn't be looking at that trust or using any reserves in that for any reason. And again, that's just general procedure from, my familiarity with other plans, but certainly if you want to explore it further, you should.
Good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions on kind of our audit results or procedures or anything?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to second your comments about the staff's approach to the audit and their work in general. It always does seem very clear and open and supportive. So, it's good to hear that the audit review found the same thing.
Okay, no other comments or questions? And I got a second Catherine there too, because that looks like good work from the staff. There's a lot of information back and forth. If not, Keith, Elise, thank you for a very good presentation. And I think we can move on and let you off to your freedom.
Yes, and I just want to thank Keith and Elise, and also Alan Sudavong, who led the Moss Adams FPDR field audit team again this year and did a great job. And just say that we really appreciate the professionalism and the expertise of everyone at Moss Adams. And as we mentioned before, that document is like the blood, sweat, and tears of Asha and Svetlana, who in our office as well, and also Taylor Irvin in Central Accounting. So thanks to everyone's hard work, and we're glad to have another clean audit year, and to the expertise and guidance of the folks at Moss Adams. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy, and thank you, Chair Hughes.
Thanks much.
Thank you all.
Okay, we have a switch now. So Sam, do you want to bring in the outside counsel contract?
Okay, yes, I will here. I'll share my screen here and we'll walk you through the contract and what's going on. Where I can find to share my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what we have here is Resolution 557. We had talked about a couple of board meetings ago that we wanted to go out for an RFP for our outside counsel contract. Legal contracts of the city are handled a little bit different than normal procurement level contracts, that the city attorney's office is the one who oversees them, shepherds them through the whole process. Us going out for an RFP, there was a discussion back and forth between us and the city attorney's office who is responsible for setting that RFP, so that we had to go back and forth a little bit on that. So it settled that we were going to do the RFP. Then we started talking with procurement, and we normally expect a 5-month turnaround on the RFP process. We've learned that it's gone 8 months, so we do not have 8 months in time to get this going. So we thought the best thing to do was to extend the present contract with Ogletree Deacons 1 more year, from January 1, 2025 to January 21, 2026. And then we'll go out with an RFP for the 2026 start date in probably April or May of next year with that. So that's what we wanted to do here at this point. And just for you, for everybody here, if you've not met Lauren, can you wave your hand? He is our counsel, our lead counsel for Deacons, Ogletree Deacons. And he's the one that you'll see him at board meetings. He does a lot of work sometimes behind the scenes on that. So the Ogletree Deacons has agreed to the contract. So we just have a few more procedural changes and a cleaning up of the contract, which I'll show you in a minute. So we're going to increase the not to exceed value on this to $25,000 by $25,000 more. And you'll see by the math later, this is probably twice as much as we need, but we're upping at that because there may be big projects coming in the next year. We have the Oregon legislature coming up for the summer. We don't know what they will do, anything that may apply to PERS or something else. We also have a new presidential administration coming in, and there may be particular things that come through them or through the legislature that could trickle down into impacting pensions or even potentially workers' compensation. So that's why we put the buffer in on this place, just in case that happens. So that's the resolution. Here's a sample of the contract amendment. There's a few tweaks we're going to make to change it, but the text is the same. Again, we're going to extend the contract through January 21st, 2026, increase the not to exceed amount by $25,000, and lead counsel is $500. And I will say that is a break from their high rates at Ogletree Deacons. With that, that gives him about 50 hours of time to go for the 25. I don't think he used more than 24 as typical. But again, we just need to make sure we have that should there be any changes at the state or federal level over the next year. So, and like I say, Lauren said Ogletree Deacons is willing to sign it. We just need to get the last little tweaks of this and to them, and we hope to get that by next week. So what we're asking you is to go ahead and approve this resolution allowing us to extend the Ogletree Deacons contract to 1 year under the condition of not to exceed amount increasing by 25,000.
Sam, do you see that trustee Kramer has his hand up?
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Sam, I may have misheard. I thought I heard you say through January 1, and I may have misheard. The documents use a January 21.
Yeah.
I'm fine with either as long as we're clear on what we mean.
It is January 21. I apologize if I said January 1st.
I probably misheard.
Yeah. No, I've been misstating things lately, so we'll take it. But what's in writing is what we're going to go by, January 21st. Any other questions? If not, turn it over to you, Patrick.
Okay, it's like we have a motion to approve the agreement for legal services through January 21st with the monetary increases that are in the document.
I would make that motion.
Okay, I would second it, and all in favor say aye or raise hands. It's hard to see everybody. So aye here. I got 2, 3. Okay. Looks like you have an approved motion, Sam, and you better hightail it over to procurement fast to get that signature.
Actually, procurement doesn't have to sign it. That's one of the changes here because of the only city attorney's office, because it's an attorney contract. So that's what we have to do is delete that signature line off this particular document. So we'll get that hopefully to Lauren next week for signature.
Great. Okay, we are down to information item number 2, disability and pension claims appeal process.
That's me again. I'll share another document with that. Okay. There was a question last week, I think, Kyle, you had a question about the appeals process. I think you're maybe more focusing on the pension appeals, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you what the claims appeals process is and where OAH fits into it, just so when we discuss in future meetings about OAH and the intergovernmental agreement, this gives you a background of the services that they offer and what we have. The PowerPoint I have here is the same as the PDF document that's in your books. The PDF document has a bunch of footnotes in it telling you exactly where these provisions are in both the charter and the administrative rules. I'm trying to show you that I didn't make all this stuff up. It's actually pulled out of the rules and the charter. You won't see those on this presentation. So we'll start out with the disability claims appeal process. This is very well documented, very much detail in the administrative rules, which is Administrative Rule 5.6 or 5.06. Okay, so what happened in 2007 as part of the charter change, the FPDR disability benefit decisions prior to that charter change were made by the Board of Trustees. Due to quite a few reasons, there's a lot of history all involved into that, and I think you might have seen some of that. I think I showed a bunch of documents that talked about the charter change at 2007, and this was part of it. So at that point, when the charter change was made, it says the board won't decide the application for disability benefits. Rather, the fund administrator or FPDR director will make that. So that was a change. So everything comes through. And in addition to that, as part of the rules and somewhat in the charter change, a little bit more detail on the appeals process for disability denials. So if I deny a claim, we'll have the analyst who investigated the claim notify the member of the decision and with the rights of appeal. And if the member wants to appeal, they can do so within 60 days of the mailing date of our denial letter. And they can do it, or somebody on their behalf, if they have an attorney, can make that request for an appeal at the hearing level. We use Office of Administrative Hearings to conduct our hearings, both that and the independent panel review. So OAH is created by the state of Oregon, is a state of Oregon agency. They do independent reviews for most state agencies except for workers' compensation, and they provide a independent, impartial forum for people to file appeals of any decision made by the state or anybody who's contracting with them to provide the appeals review process. The intergovernmental agreement with OAH was signed in December of 2026. It was a council ordinance, not an FPDR resolution. It was a council ordinance that said they will do it. They're the ones who made the decision to go with OAH at that time. Kyle, did you have a question?
Just curious, for the intergovernmental agreement with OAH, is there a financial component to that?
Yes, there is. And we'll share that with you when we bring up the intergovernmental agreement and looking for that. Yes, they do charge us for their services, as they charge all other agencies in the state for their services. So anybody who uses them does pay for their work. Okay, so for the hearing, OAH conducts the hearing level. They do it and they follow our charter, section 5202B and section 5.6 of our administrative rules. OAH assigns a hearing officer to adjudicate it. And again, here just say they have to be an attorney, member of the Oregon Bar, and they have to have some relevant experience and can't be a member or a beneficiary of the plan, FPDR plan. So the hearings are conducted under the control of the hearings officer. So the ALJ, the administrative law judge, is the one who controls the hearing. They are considered non-adversarial fact-finding proceedings. The intent is to get a full, complete view of what is happening with the member, and their disability or claimed disability. So the idea is to get an accurate and complete record, which will allow the hearings officer to have the full range of information to make an equitable decision. FPDR members may represent themselves or may be represented by the attorney. I would say about 95% use an attorney. Okay. I am moving a little fast, so if you have questions, make sure I do them. And Julie, can you make sure that I catch the people? So the attorneys from both sides, from the member and from FPDR, present evidence to the hearing officer. They can provide new evidence that was not provided to FPDR at the time we made the claim decision. It's usually we make a claim decision based on certain information we have. The member will go out and get more medical information or maybe an independent review on their part and present it as new information. So again, it's a fact finding. We're trying to get all the facts that we can for that. And so each party is allowed to add facts and clarify what is being there. Because again, the idea is a fair hearing on what's happening. And they can do so until some point the hearing officer will say, okay, I'm now closing the record. So everybody make sure that everybody wanted to submit is submitted, and they'll close it. And once they close that record and they've read all the different potential briefs from the attorneys, the hearing officer, ALJ, has 30 days to make a decision and do that. And again, they follow the rules in 5.6 of our administrative rules. So the decision of the hearing officer is final unless they appeal it to the independent panel. And the member can do that within 30 days of the hearing officer's order. And again, the panel has 3 ALJs on it, and they are provided by OAH. They do similar things for other agencies in the state, having review panels of more than 1 or 2 ALJs. And again, they'll do it by the charter and the administrative rules. They do not allow new evidence to be submitted at this time. people can, through briefs and stuff, try to represent the existing information, but they cannot add new information at this point. Again, they must be a member of the bar and have some disability experience, and they have staggered terms. They have no prescribed deadline for issuing their decision. We usually find they do it in 2 to 3 months at the conclusions of the briefings. I've seen it as short as just a few weeks, and there's been a couple that have gone several months. Usually a really pretty complex issue that requires a lot of research. And they do a tremendous amount of research. They'll go through workers' compensation hearings, other hearings out of similar situations, just trying to compare information, how other panels or other decisions were rendered and what they base their decisions on. This is considered the final decision of the fund. We as FPDR Rules and Charter have no further appeal proceedings after this. However, they can appeal it to the circuit court through a writ of review. It's the same process that happens with a lot of other legal things that happen throughout the city. The circuit court has judicians. They follow Oregon revised statutes to run their trial and hearings. The court has their own discretion on how they want to proceed with it. There's multiple different ways that they can go with it. Most of the time they allow parties to brief the case, and occasionally they will conduct oral arguments. And this point is where the assigned judge can ask questions. There's no deadline for them to decide a case. And again, we usually find they make these cases decisions very rapidly. They'll do it from the bench, which means as soon as they hit the last person is done, given their oral presentation, they can rule right then and there, or they do a written decision, which takes a week or two. Again, these are done very quickly with it. Circuit court's decision can be appealed to Oregon Court of Appeals within 30 days. And the Oregon Court of Appeals reviews for legal error and substantial evidence. Again, you're not adding new information. You're looking at what already exists, but you're taking a fresh look at it. And they figure out, did everybody prior to their looking at it follow all this legal requirements and follow the intent of what the charter and the administrative rules say. Again, after the parties have briefed and held oral arguments, they'll be published within several months. They are not fast in turning these around, and there's no deadline prescribed for them to do that. Party may file for a petition for review by Oregon Supreme Court in 35 days after the appeals court decision. The Oregon Supreme Court is not required to look at everything that is appealed to them. Rather, they examine certain criteria, determine whether to grant a review, and will decline cases that do not satisfy that criteria. If they do decline to receive it, the Court of Appeals decision is the final decision and stands. Supreme Court, again, if they grant review of the case, they file briefs, oral arguments again. There is no specific time frame which the Oregon Supreme Court will issue. Again, it could be many months before they do that. So any questions on that? Okay. And
Sam, I did have one, sorry.
Sure.
I was searching for my mute button. The member can appeal to the circuit court and then upward, the fund being done. Once it's in the circuit court, in theory, would the fund have the ability to appeal to the appellate court, or we're done?
Well, we're not done. I mean, we're done with our outline appeals process in the charter. If it goes to circuit court, we are a party. We become the defendant in that, and we have to defend our point of view through both the circuit court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we're not out of the picture. It just changes into where they go into the civil court process outside of the FPDR appeals process. Franco.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, we've litigated this issue, actually. Either party may file a petition for writ of review to the circuit court. And then similarly, either party may appeal from there. So don't be misled by the language about the final decision of the fund. What that refers to is, the fund being part of the city. This is the final decision of the city, and that confers jurisdiction to the circuit court with a timely petition for writ of review and with the other criteria that the statute requires.
And good point is that if FPDR wants to, if the independent panel has overturned FPDR's decision, we can be the one to take it to circuit court and through the process. Thanks for the clarification. Okay. So the retirement benefits appeals process, the rules for this are pretty thin compared to the extreme detail they give for the disability thing. There's not been that many retirement appeals process, but we'll walk you through what's in the rules and the charter at this point. So basically, anytime a member beneficiary disagrees with the determination to the amount or benefit, and this benefit is the retirement benefit, they have the right to appeal. Then we haven't calculated the benefit right. They may not like some of the dates or a few other things with that. They can file an appeal. They have to file within 1 year of the date they had knowledge that their material facts were there. So they can't wait, basically can't wait 5 years after your pension benefit has started to complain about the calculated amount. They might be able to stretch that, but most of this is designed, you've got 1 year to make sure your pension is being paid the way you think it should be paid to file an appeal. There's also what they call denied claim. It could be, we've denied their pension. I don't know why we would do that, but and we've never had it. Or it could be that they've asked us to look at something in it, and I will have denied their ask for something. So in that sense, it becomes denied with it. And if they have something to where I send out that I'm denying their request or denying their question, they have 60 days to file an appeal. So within 60 days of the receipt of a notice of appeal, we're expecting, I know again, OAH is the one who is doing the review here at this point, the hearings officer that writes the OAH. So they'll decide their decision in 60 days, or if there's special circumstances, they can extend it to 120. One thing that I didn't push out there was on the ALJ level, at the hearing level, that once the entire, close the input of new information, they have 30 days to make their decision. That wasn't on the slide, but 30 days to make a decision. Here they have 60 to 120 to make a decision. And again, they can offer new information that was not in FPDR's hands at the time FPDR made the decision.
Sam?
Yes.
Trustee McClary's hands up.
Yeah, Kyle.
Just to clarify the protocol for the retirement benefits appeal. So a member makes appeal. It is then the director's decision to either accept or deny, at which point then the denied claim can, within 60 days, can be brought to the OAH. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past.
Thank you.
Gives us the time to review it. Again, if it's denied, we'll give the specific reasons as to why it was denied. And they have a right to bring a civil action. This is one thing that happens here. There is nothing in the administrative rules or the charter for a pension or retirement benefit appeal to go to an independent panel. That was excluded or left out of the rules. So if they disagree with the ALJs, they immediately go to civil action, which is writ of review, then Court of Appeals and Supreme Court, same as we described before. Trying to think here. Basically, they're saying this is pretty standard and assumed is everybody, if you have an administrative appeals process, you're always expected, courts always expect you to complete that administrative process before you take it to court, civil court.
And Sam, Chair Yu's hand is up.
Yep, Patrick?
Yeah, Sam, and it might be a question for Franco. I've never had to look at this, but on the appeal process for disability or retirement, if they are represented by attorneys, do we have a exposure of paying attorney's fees or not?
Well, that's a good question, but no, it is dissimilar to the Oregon Workers' Comp division hearings in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and just repeat on the slide, they have a right to go to the circuit court. That's their next step if they do not agree with the ALJ's decision. And I didn't repeat what happens at the circuit court and appeals court and the Supreme Court's the same thing as I went before. So again, I just wanted to give an idea of what the process is because this is important to our members. And I think there may be things we talk about next year that will come back that are driven partly by the appeals process. And I know it's a good background when we start talking about OAH intergovernmental agreement here in the next 1 or 2 board meetings. Any other questions on that? Okay, I think we're done.
Thanks, Sam. Information item 3, the City of Portland transition, very popular subject.
Yep, that's me again. You still see it, push a button. It's still showing on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. So we're just going to go to the city transition update. So what this is all about. So the last year, people approved a charter change that changed our form of government. You've probably been hearing a lot about it, or maybe you're not. For us here in the city, it's a very big deal that we're hearing a lot. We just went through an election for the city. So what all changed? There are 3 things that changed with that. Is today you vote for one candidate. Over each candidate covers the entire city. Well, that's the next one. When you vote for one candidate, you change the voting to ranked choice voting, and we'll go over a little bit of that in a minute. It's pretty new. It's interesting that they tried to present that to the state and it was turned down. So the state is sticking with the old voting process. Citywide elections, each of the commissioners were elected as a citywide position. Now they went to 4 geographical districts. Each one has 3 members in that. So that idea there was certain parts of the city always felt left out of the governing process. Putting districts assures that each part of the city does have representation on the council. Always the west side of Portland seemed to be the #1 area that commissioners were from. Now they're from north, east, south, and west part of the city. Presently, they're changing the form of government. We now have today 4 commissioners and a mayor who comprise the council. They're all voting members, and they create the policy or the legislation for the city. And they also do the executive component of the city. Most governments have a legislative and executive branches are separate. But today, they're one and the same. That's led to some issues here, and people wanted to resolve those issues. And so they created a mayor council form of government. So you have our 12 councilors form the city council. They do all the legislative and policy setting, and the running of the city, the executive management falls to the mayor with a city administrator. This is a crazy timeline. I'm going to hit a few points on it. So November 2022 is when the people passed these the charter changes to introduce the ranked choice voting, the city council, the makeup change, and voting by districts. So summer, there was interesting here. There's an adoption of the 24-25 budget. Interesting thing about that budget, half the budget is for the old council, half the budget is for the new council, because this splits. So January 1, 2025 is when it comes. So that was an unusual budget, and the new council coming in is going to have to live by that budget, whether they like it or not. But I think the mayor and the city council tried to balance it well, so to not hinder the new council coming through. Then what we did also in July, we'll talk a little bit more about this later, is we tried to redo the executive part of the city, all the bureau assignments, everything, to mimic what we expect to be happening on January 1, 2025. The Mayor Wheeler wanted to give us 6 months of attempt to run over an organization and make it work so the new council doesn't come in and have to create this new organization from the ground up while trying to learn their jobs. And so in November, just a couple of weeks ago, we had the first election using ranked choice to determine who all the city new mayor is, and the city commissioner, and they're not commissioners anymore, city councilors are. I think they finally settled on all 12. A couple of races were down to literally the last couple of ballots with that. Interestingly, they said 1 in 5 voters did not make any attempt to do the ranked choice voting. We'll talk a little bit more about that. They found that was interesting. So 20% of the voters didn't even attempt to vote or use the new voting system. Again, this is just a recap of old form. Everybody's commissioners who do both executive and legislative. And then here's a split between 12 councilors and the mayor and city administrator. Repeat what we said before. Again, just in a little bit more detail, the council will no longer manage bureaus. They'll focus on developing laws and policy, engaging constituents. That's one of the biggest reasons why they did the districts, so more people have a say in the government. The mayor has the executive authority of running all the executive parts of the business, the operations of the city, and the mayor will no longer serve as a member of city council, but they will have the ability to break ties on non-emergency ordinances. The mayor may be able to propose laws, but can't vote on them, and the mayor will still be responsible for proposing the budget. Just a little bit more here. I'm not going to go in a lot more detail here. Big part here is strategic planning. The city's never really had a strategic plan. The dream is to have this new council create a strategic plan and run the city from the strategic plan. We don't do that now. A city becomes more reactionary and tries to manage the city's future by trying to manage the budget. Should be the other way around. Our view for the future should drive the budget. So that's what they're looking to do. And then they're looking at the mayor's job is not only run the city, but help support the council and what they need to do, implement their policies, and help them create the policies. City administrator is really the person who's going to be running the city. They're hired by the mayor, confirmed by city council. They will supervise deputy city administrators, an assistant city administrator, all the bureau directors, except for police and city attorney. Those two will continue to report directly to the mayor. The deputy city administrators will oversee service areas. We'll have a graphic of that later, what that looks like, and groups of bureaus and programs. So basically the bureau directors will report up through the deputy city administrators, up then through the city administrator. Key part of this third paragraph here, leading, coordinating operations across the city. The big issue with the present commissioner form of government is intense silos, heavily controlled by the commissioner. And sometimes the commissioners, honestly, there's a couple of commissioners who did not allow bureau directors to meet with other bureau directors that reported to another commissioner. Sort of the funniest thing, it's a small thing, but it was a big pain always, was the tree code. You have a city tree code. You have parks who has their own trees, code, not a code, but their own requirements for how they manage the trees on their property. You have the Water Bureau, because some of what they do controls trees. You have Portland, the Bureau of Transportation has trees all along. Everybody managed trees differently. They wanted to get together and create a sort of uniform way of managing trees. They were told no by their commissioners. That's the most absurd example you can give of the siloing effect with that. That's going away, because right now they're going in through next year's budget. The deputy city administrators and the city administrator getting in a room and talking about how they manage the budget across all bureaus, all service areas, and not saying, so they're taking away the silo effect and saying, you know, where's best to manage your money across the city. And they're doing that with a lot of other things. So it's refreshing to see they are taking across the city, a horizontal look at how the city operates. Okay, so here is the org chart for the city coming forward. You have over here on the left, you have the mayor. These three in black are the elected officials. The mayor, again, the city attorney and chief of police report directly to the mayor. The mayor has their own chief of staff. You have the city council and the auditor, which is independent and not directly impacted by this organizational change. You have over here on the right-hand side, the city administrator who reports to the mayor. They oversee this whole block of stuff that's going on. They have an assistant city administrator who oversees areas that are really truly across the city and affect every bureau, every office, and that's why they're housed there. Then you come over here to the areas with all the multicolors. These are the service areas. So they linked like bureaus and programs into a service area. And the obvious one will start from the bottom up as public works. It's environmental services, which is sewer, predominantly transportation and water. Vibrant communities, which is predominantly parks and recreation. It does have the children's levy because there's a lot of interaction with the parks department on that. And the arts also does that. And if you also see, they have citywide operational natural resource area and tree management. So here's where your tree management is going to go in the future, and they will oversee it across the whole city. Public safety, pretty straightforward: police, fire, emergency management, emergency communications, emergency management there. Community economic and development. So this is planning and sustainability. The Housing Bureau, Portland Prosper, which sets a lot of the development areas in the city, and then permitting and development services, which they've moved from about 7 or 8 bureaus into one office right there to do it, hopefully get some more streamlined for that process. City operations, this is a lot of the programs that touch all bureaus, all employees throughout the city. So you have asset management, fleet and facilities, you have human resources, procurement, then you have technology services, or IT people. Then the top one is budget and finance. Pretty straightforward. All the budgeting and financing are in this area, as well as FPDR. We're sort of an odd one out. This is where we best fit because we do have a financial impact on the city and some unique finances. And so we felt that this is the best place to put us to go. So any questions so far on what we're doing? And again, this was all set up here, as I said, on July 1, 2024, that organizational structure here, as much as possible, with the exception of city council, but was set, this part here in the city administrator was set up. We have an acting city administrator, active deputy city administrators with it. So FPDR was assigned to the budget and finance area, as I said before, under Deputy City Administrator Jonas Beery. He worked with the city, left the city, came back to the city, and he has a good background knowledge of what FPDR is about, which makes it easy for us to work with him in that service area. So the impact of the change on FPDR, we're getting assistance and attention we didn't get before. We are, a unique group, and so sometimes being out of the mainstream is good, but sometimes there are certain services that we couldn't get help with. Those services included communications, equity plans, and office safety. We're just too small to be able to do those on our own, and so it's great that we have it. So communications, we do web design, some of our communications with our retirees and stuff that help us with. Sort of somewhat on a little bit of the negative side with it, it's additional bureaucracy for me. I now have to report directly to somebody and have to talk to them every week. Whereas when I was with commissioners, I talked to them once every 3 months. And I think Commissioner Gonzalez, I only talked to him twice in a year and a half. I occasionally work with the city, their chiefs of staff, but this is sort of, hey, I'm now part of a team having to work with them. And I just have to deal with some bureaucracy. New budgeting process, we'll defer that to Stacy when she does her budget here in January. And then overall, there's a minimal impact to FPDR staff and no impact to our members from this change, which is good to say. So they will be oblivious to this change when they deal with us. We are still unique and we still have our identity. We didn't lose it. We're still what we are. And part of my job, as I tell my staff, is to insulate all these changes from them and our members with it as we move forward. We switch to the second part here, how the leaders are elected. Again, 4 geographical districts. We have 3 members from each district, so there's quite a few people we had to vote for. Then ranked choice voting. Let's go to this next page here. So ranked choice voting was interesting. We had to find 6 people and rank them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in it. For my district, District 4, we had over 30 people vying for 3 positions. It was a nightmare trying to dig through who of those 30 were worth talking about and dealing with and having to vote for. It took me about 4 or 5 hours just to get that 30 list down to 10 people to look at personally, and then spend some time to look at the last 10 and order them 1 through 6. It's a lot of work to do. Some people like it. Some people didn't. Like I said, 1 in 5 people said this is too complicated and they just left this stuff blank. So it's a new way of doing it. All in all, we did get people elected. There weren't any surprises or anybody didn't call foul because of this new method. So it worked in that sense that we got people elected. It's just they're going to have to do a lot more selling to the people who do this. And hopefully in the future, we won't have 30 people to choose from. That was just crazy. And they're all new people. So yeah, and I knew nobody on the list in my district, so I had to go from scratch with it. And again, the state tried to go with their version. It was part of in the election, and it got turned down at the election for the state version. And again, more and stuff on ranked choice voting if you want to know. So any questions on that with it? So a lot of work internally to make this work, especially from the bureau director on level on up. I think it's gone well. I think the change team has done a fantastic job of communicating with the public and with our staff on what's going on. And then when we roll out with the new mayor and new council next year, it will be very interesting to see, because they don't have to accept anything that we've put in place. They can turn this whole thing on its head and just re-roll the dice. I doubt they will. They would not be smart to do that, but that's a risk that we have with this. Okay, anything else?
That was one of the better presentations I've seen on transition. You should send that to Mike Jordan.
Actually, this is half of that's Mike Jordan's presentation to us.
Oh, okay.
So I just tried to tailor it a little bit to how it would impact FPDR.
Can you spin back up to the slide that shows the new organization? Just a great.
This one here?
Yeah, just a comment from another city employee. When you look at the 6 colored boxes now, the 6 service areas, I actually see those 6 deputy city administrators sitting in a room and banging out ideas together, which you have to hope is better than bureau directors on their own. So it's kind of good to see, but we have a lot to do. So just a comment that it seems to be going in the right direction so far. So
yeah, I agree with that here. And I think the old silo form of government, everybody was trying to protect themselves, and the city administrators have been tasked, no, your job is to the city first, then to the bureaus that report up with you second. And none of the bureaus are being shortchanged, but they have to make some tough decisions on this upcoming budget. Which, just in case you haven't heard, City of Portland, with the exception of fire and police, and I forget 1 or 2 other bureaus, have 0 cut in their budget, but the remaining bureaus have 5 to 8% cuts in budget. And so the DCAs are tasked with where do you find that money? And it isn't going to come equally from every bureau. They're going to take it to where it makes most sense to protect what the city can offer its citizens.
Yeah, it's going to be tight. So great.
Okay.
Thanks, Sam. Next agenda item is the.
I have one more thing, Patrick. I forgot to cover on this one here.
Oh, I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is real quick here. There were some changes made to the charter back in 2022, and I want to show you what they are. They're minuscule. They're not impacting anything we do. So in section 5202, powers of the board, basically 5202F is who can hire and fire me. And instead of the mayor, it's now the city administrator to do that. Nothing else has changed. 5403, they made one change. So they deleted by council simply because under Part B, this gets a little crazy here. So there's other benefits that they per Social Security and Workers' Comp. That's what this Part B refers to. There's 2 parts to this. There's an or in the middle of it. So first of all, if the city is required by law to cover or change how firefighters fall under per Social Security Workers' Comp, the city council has the right to make those changes to comply with the law. Then there's this or here in the middle, 3rd line down. You can see where I've struck out council and added city. What they're saying is at this point, the city can act independently and decide they want to let's say move all the workers, move all firefighters, police officers to the state workers' compensation system. The council used to have to do it. Now they're saying the city, which is basically the mayor or city administrator, can decide to do that. But just hold on here. It has to be ratified by affirmative vote of half, by the majority of our active members. So they just can't unilaterally do it. But this is just to say is that can be initiated by the city and not necessarily by city council. The odds of this happening, at least at this point, is nil, none at all. But it's just that's one place they made the change. So there's no other parts of 5403 that were changed. Now we have part of the city code. You don't see this very often, but chapter 3.127 actually created the Bureau of FPDR and created the FPDR director in 2006. With that, along with the charter change that occurred on 2007. So the only changes they made here is and they did this throughout everywhere. Every place that said shall was changed to will. Shall is a murky term that I think meant something way back when, doesn't quite mean the same today. So they want to be very clear that will, so there isn't any waffling to it. A couple changes where they titled the word plan. Then lastly, at the bottom is the administrator, which is bureau director, may delegate. Instead of saying his or her, they went to the gender neutral term of their. So again, minor changes. I wanted you to be aware of those. They aren't big at all.
The shall and will change affected everything. It must have been changed 10,000 times throughout the city.
Yeah, with that. The city is going through a lot more code changes. A lot of them, none of them impact FPDR. They are administrative rules outside of FPDR. Almost all of them, a lot of them were allowed by bureau directors to make them. They are not. They're all being pulled to the city administrator. Ours are still resting because it is in the charter with the city council, not city council, but with the FPDR board of trustees. That will not change. City administrator will not need to approve them or act on them. So again, there's no change for us on that.
Great, thank you, Sam. Item number 4, proposed board meeting schedule. I should ask any questions. There didn't appear to be, but
no. So
okay.
I'm throwing a lot of it this time. Instead of Stacy, it's me being the talking head for the meeting here, just trying to overwhelm you with a lot of information. Julie, did you want to take the future board meetings or the board schedule?
Okay, sure. Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So this is let me share my screen.
Oops. Gotta stop sharing. Okay. There you go. Now you got it.
All right. Can you guys see that? Okay. So we decided to go virtual for the January and March meetings, which I think was a really smart idea. I don't have AV training until January 21st. So we are just going to have those meetings be virtual, and then we will be in council chambers. We have some really nice new signs for the Board of Trustee members who on the dais. They're fancy. They're really nice. Looking forward to seeing the room. And as usual, we'll meet early in March and November, the third week of the month, since spring break is in March. And then, of course, the fourth week of the month is Thanksgiving. We don't want to meet that week. So I'll learn a lot more at the AV training. I probably will attend a few council sessions just to see how it goes. And then we'll meet there in May and talk about tax anticipation notes, I suppose. I can't really think of anything else to say. Sam, do you have anything to add?
No, that's it. We're just working. It's the other room that we're using in the 1900 building we've lost. We don't have access to that room anymore. So the city council is meeting all virtually, and they're hoping maybe by December they'll meet the outgoing council will meet in the new chambers, maybe not. We don't know if it'll be ready by January. And again, we don't want to be the guinea pig for any meeting in January for all the technology. March, we also have for city council, they're going to have committee meetings. So they're going to be using the room a lot. We've tried to lock down our times, but council gets what the council wants. So that's what we're really pushing hard. And we have some advocates that are managing the schedule that we keep our fourth Tuesday in that location with that. But that's why we're giving it till through March that we're going to do virtual, just so we can get through all that stuff and not play ping pong with everybody.
Great, thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
We are on to the summary of expenditures.
All right, so
That's Stacy.
Yep, so that's back to me. Before I throw it open for questions, I'll just mention that you may notice that we have added a column for current budget as well as original budget, which is something that doesn't normally happen until much later in the year. And that's because if we amend our budget at all, it's normally very late in the year just to prevent over expenditure in one category or another. But as I mentioned at our September meeting this year, council had to amend our budget almost right after they adopted it to take out the budget that we originally had in for TANs and add in the budget for the interfund loan with Parks, which you all approved at our May board meeting because Parks didn't get their side of the transaction in before budget adoption. So that's why there is an immediately amended budget. It doesn't look that different because note sales and internal loan proceeds, while separate accounts, both roll up to bond and note proceeds in the major categories. And then on the other side, note retirement and internal loan remittances, also different accounts, both roll up to debt retirement. So, but you can see that debt retirement will be about $950,000 less, which was the whole point of all of that, is that we're saving about $1 million. And then that we put that extra money in fund contingency in the budget. So that's that almost $1 million in savings. But in any event, as we go through the year, you want to compare spending to the current budget column, which is really the budget as authorized by the board, and then as sort of amended in May when you authorize the interfund loan in May. So I did just want to point that out because you don't normally see that column this early in the year. But are there any questions about the expenditure report thus far? Don't really see any. All right.
Nope. We'll wait a couple months before we ask tough questions.
I'm surprised Trustee Kramer didn't have a tough question for me.
Okay. Item number 6, FPDR updates.
Okay. Yeah, I think you just saw what our future board meeting agendas are. January, actuarial evaluation levy adequacy analysis, and the budget. March will be the benefit adjustment, or COLA, for people. That's what we have on the agenda for now. I have one more topic to go here if I can find it. I share my screen again. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an organizational chart of FPDR. It's broken down. Well, we do have our team areas, but we're showing you who's represented by what union. We have, as right now, we have 14 of our 18 people are represented by a union in FPDR. Most of our members are part of CPPW, which is City of Portland Professional Workers Association. And then we also have, and those are in sort of the orange, or they look orange color on my screen. And then those in blue are AFSCME, which is American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees with that. So AFSCME has about 1,000 city employees in addition to those of FPDR, and CPPW has 770 employees throughout the city. So they're decent sized unions for the city. So right now, the city is in labor negotiations with both of these unions. AFSCME, they're at the mediation level. At this point, there's no indication that either union will strike. However, Kim, Stacy, and I are reviewing options to keep FPDR operational should there be a strike. So this is just to let you know that we're in the area of negotiating a contract, and worst case scenario, there could be a strike. So I'll let you know that we are preparing for that. Patrick?
In preparing, is the group preparing a strike plan under your EOP, or at this point just trying to prepare?
Well, it's a strike plan that we're having. It mirrors our continuity of operations plan. So we're looking specifically of what are critical functions, who will perform those critical functions if that particular person is not available. We have plans in place. The ASME employees have been part of that union for a long time, and we've had run-ups to in the past where we've been told to prepare for strikes. So we have plans there. We just modify them through. CPPW is a new union. Should they strike, we'll be creating something brand new to how to deal with that.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Okay. And we'll keep you posted should there be any changes or if anything unfortunately moves toward a strike, because if there is a strike, there will be an impact probably to some of our members on what we do. And our Kim, Stacy, and my job is to do everything possible to make sure that that impact is as minimal as possible. And part of the big challenge is that why I gave you the numbers throughout the city is that normally, like let's say you have all your analysts over here under the disability area. Well, all analysts in the city would be on strike, again, worst case scenario. So we can't look to other bureaus to backfill us or provide us help. So we're going to have to be looking to ourselves to figure out how we do all that work. So, that's what Kim, Stacy, and my job is to figure out how we would best continue to provide services to our members during a strike.
The temp services contract that the city has is becoming very popular. So,
and temps is an option. Part of it is you have to temps. It takes you weeks to get those people up and trained. So you have to evaluate. When do you think start to do that? Is a strike going to go a few days, few weeks, few months? We don't know. So we have to make some educated guesses based on what we learn at the time of the duration of a strike would be and how you would respond to it. Okay.
Well, I believe we've covered everything. Any other comments or questions or?
Oh, Chair Heaps and Sam, I just realized I didn't think about this until just now, but the board might be interested in an update on the 27 pay date retirement month real quick. So I'll just say really quickly, we're kind of right in the middle of it. This is our third 27 pay date retirement month in the last 12 months. So this is the craziest stretch of 27 pay date retirement months we've had thus far since that phenomenon emerged in 2008. And this is going to be our, I think, our second highest retirement month ever. Right now we have, let me just pull up the latest as of today. We have a total of 55 active duty folks walking out the door. 51 retirements and 4 resignations. That's 21 fire and 34 police. And that is, barring anybody changing their mind by the end of the month. And, by the end of the day today, we'll have 33 of those folks will have signed their pension applications. So, that's kind of where we are in that 55 at this point. So, and our highest retirement month ever was August of 2020 when we had 62, I believe. So we were pretty close to that. It's really been a very, a lot of folks walking out the door. Trustee Kramer, I see your hand up.
Patrick, I just had a quick note about the retirement workshop I attended at the Fire Training Center about 5 weeks ago. And I wanted to put on the record a note that I thought the FPDR staff did an outstanding job. It was really a very informative, very well organized presentation. And I was really glad I went.
Great. Kyle, you have a hand up?
Yes. So two things. Stacy, for that 55 people that retired, you track how many do the retire rehire program, or is that not part of the stats?
We do track that. I don't have that at my fingertips. Let me see if Beth has that in her sheet.
And I'm not sure how frequent it is used by the police side. It is becoming more and more frequent on the fire side.
Yes, I know there were a lot on the fire side, just anecdotally. Yeah, we do track that, but I don't have it at my fingertips,
Okay.
Trustee McClary, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just mostly curious.
Yes, I can't get back to you with that, though.
Okay. My second one was about the upcoming dates for the retirement workshops. I'm not sure where to track them exactly, and I'm actually interested in going to one as well. Is that through the website, or is that going to come out through roll call? Do you know?
Those are on the website, although actually, now that you say that, I'm not sure that Beth has posted those yet.
Yeah. We don't have the 2025 meetings on there yet.
We don't have them on there yet. Normally we do have them on there by now. I guess we've been completely overwhelmed with our 27 payday. But yeah, normally we have them up on our website. We'll get those posted, and we'll have 4 next year, like we usually do. So the first one is usually at the end of February or the beginning of March, but we'll get those posted soon. I'll put that on my list to make sure Beth gets that out.
Thank you. When those do get posted, would you just send us an alert or mention it at the January meeting so we can look and sign up for one of those?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
You read my mind. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's been exciting times at the FPDR office. Got lots of folks coming in and retiring.
And yes, I just have a follow-up to Kyle's question on the retire rehires. Is there a limitation on the length of service that can be done subsequent to retirement if you're rehired?
So the retire rehires, it's not like a drop program or anything like that. They are not continuing to accrue service in the FPDR plan when they're rehired. So when they retire, they're retired to us. They're just retirees to the FPDR plan. So we treat them just like as if they had gone out and gotten a job, at Walmart or something. I mean, their return to service at the city is of no interest to us, I suppose would be the best way to put it. But the police, the PPA contract and the PFFA contract do have specific provisions around, how long they can return to work. And I don't remember all the details. Trustee McClary might know the details of the fire retire program.
Yeah, for the fire side, it's a 1 year, and then it can be extended 6 months. But by the chief of the bureau can decide if that can be an additional 6 months.
Thanks.
And while they're rehired, they're covered by the city's workers' compensation plan, not by the FPDR disability plan for any new on-the-job injuries. And then they may or may not, I mean, this is negotiable with the city, but I believe that they have, at least at this point, always been covered under the PERS plan for that time. Is that, yeah, Trustee McClary is, and I believe that's the same at police. The program has existed at police for quite a while, but it's new at fire. How long have we had it at fire now, Trustee McClary?
I'd say about 3 years.
Did we run out of new thoughts? Looks like it. And my eyes are still open. I'm still waking up at 3 a.m. every day. So I'm actually proud of myself for making it all the way till almost 3. So, okay, well, thank you, everybody, and thanks staff who are not present. And we will see you at the next board meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
take care.
Everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.